Terry, welcome. Welcome to this podcast. We've tried this a few times now.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and sorry it
Hey,
took so long.
oh, no worries, man. It happens, right? Like, especially having to do this over this and stuff like that. And we don't live in the same city either, so.
That and just it was a very busy time there too, like when we first started talking about it with the whole EP release stuff, and then
Yeah,
all this stuff happened right after, so it got things got really messed up really quick.
really quick, really quick. But I remember we started. Yeah, when the EP first came out, we started talking about doing this. Yeah, yeah, it's been a while. The success you guys have seen from that is pretty staggering. Like I've seen, like you guys have been getting a lot of love for that album.
Honestly, the amount of feedback, and well, the amount of good feedback and even better than good feedback that we've gotten from it has been amazing. Like I can't say any one of us expected the amount of love for the album that we
And
have
it's more
gotten.
than deserving because that album's fantastic. Like I've listened. I can't count how many times I've listened to the whole thing start to back. Like you guys did a fantastic job on that record. Like it blew. Like when I first heard about you guys, it was just through the KW Facebook group. There, it was just seeing like videos of you guys perform, and I was just like, this is insane. The lead singer's in a wheelchair, just giving it like anyone else would, and just these guys kick ass and stuff too. It was just like, who are these guys? Like, this is incredible. Like,
It really helps to have like Jay, the guitar player, Deville, our bass player, and Nathan, our drummer. They're all
oh
wicked
yes,
musicians, and they know and understand music theory. They know what they're doing musically speaking, and they're all in other bands. They all play other instruments as well. So yeah, it
that definitely helps.
things have
But the name Backbreaker, did that come about because of the accident, or was that something you had before in mind as well?
Yeah, it's funny. I get asked that quite a bit actually, and it was something I was trying to do prior to the accident. It was meant to be a reference to the working class and the working poor going to work every day, breaking your back to earn a paycheck to go home and go to work the next day and earn a paycheck. And basically it was just a tribute to the working class in general, and it's how we spend our lives each day. And then my accident happened at work in Toronto, and it kind of took on a second meaning, and yeah.
It's a great because it fits. It's perfect. Like in both sense, it like makes complete sense. Like
Yeah.
breaking your back for that paycheck, and like it reflects that in your music because it's very, very, very working class, and that's something I don't want to say you don't see a lot because you do see it like in other like there's certain bands out there you do see it like prevalent, but like
Yeah,
this like in your
definitely.
face and upfront and apologetic about being like pro union and all that as well too. Like that's sorely lacking as
And
far as I'm
again,
concerned.
I totally agree, and especially in the newer bands, like it seems we're at a point again where people want to be offensive or apolitical, or I don't even know how else to explain it, but yeah, and that was kind of a big thing with being in a band for me. Was I've always punk rock and politics have always been one and the same for me, and politics brought me to punk rock musically, um, and I always wanted that to reflect in anything that I did. And then, like you said, once I had my accident, my experience with the union, with everything that I went through, um, it became that unapologetic pro-union, pro-worker experience because of, like I said, what I did experience when after I had my accident. And yeah,
I read the Daily Tune interview where you talked about it, and it just blew me away, like just unbelievable, like, and it was only like what 2017, so that was only like 3 years ago, and here we are still doing it.
3 years ago this July.
That's insane. It's just how like just how fast time can fly like that, I guess. But
it's crazy too because it honestly seems like it's been longer than 3 years, but then in certain ways it seems like it was just yesterday.
Especially like, is it something like, was it something more like along the lines now that you've passed it? It's like you wake up and it's just like, oh, this is every other day sort of thing.
Yes and no. There's still quite more days than not, truthfully, where I wake up and it's like, fuck. I don't know. Other than that, truthfully, that's the best way to explain it. Or it's just kind of, or something happens throughout the day that just kind of reminds me of either the accident or the position that I am in. And yeah, I don't know. It's just there is still some anxiety, depression kind of stuff that goes along with it, but
yeah, that's what are you gonna do though? You know what I mean? At this point,
yeah,
it's just
exactly.
It's it's a day by day sort of thing. Like I don't even want to equate like I have wicked mental health issues as well too. Like I'm all over the place with that. But I can't even equate like this situation. But like still, there's days where I wake up and it's just like fuck, and that's pretty much the perfect way to put it.
I would say it probably is the best comparison that we can, like, everybody's got their situation and their thing,
Exactly.
right? And mine so happens to be that I had an accident and I'm in a wheelchair and I have to deal with what has come of it, and I just decided that instead of because when I was in the hospital and when I was in rehab, I watched a lot of people give up. I watched a lot of people push their families away and their friends away, and people who were there for less severe injuries than mine, who were now in a worse position because of what pushing people away and giving up on physio and this and that, and just life in general. And these people, like, there was one kid who was the same age as me, and he had been there for a year already, and in rehab, and I got out in 7 weeks. And it is just, as soon as I realized that was going to be the thing that's either going to let me move ahead or not, that kind of just made it my goal, I guess.
It's like you're not going to get any better if you don't want to get better.
Yeah, and like, it's not necessarily to say that like just wanting to get better will make me better or anything like that, because I mean, truthfully, in my situation, I could never progress past the point I'm at now. But then at the same time, there is the chance of it. So for me, it's kind of like I might as well take that chance.
May as well. Like, there's nothing. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Now, you were saying before it was politics that got you into punk rock. It wasn't the other way around. The punk. So, was there anything in specific that, like, a specific event you can recall that politicized you and made you be like, "This is how I am," sort of thing?
Yeah, and I feel like this same event is what's driven a lot of people in our generation to their political views. But I came home on the morning of 9/11. Just after the first plane hit, and my mom was sitting there crying, and I asked what was wrong, and then the second plane hit right then, and that really, I saw the whole drive in blaming Iraq and the people of Iraq and the significant, like, the end, like the war for oil in the end, and what this whole apparent war on terrorism is now subsequently created out of it. And after that happened, honestly, the very first band that I found, within weeks, it popped up on my LimeWire, Anti-Flag, and they threw me down the rabbit hole. So
that's a good band to start with. Holy hell!
Yeah, and like, now looking at it, I mean, they're not the most radical of the radical bands or anything like that. So truthfully, they are a good place to start for younger people who are looking to get into more political avenues of punk, I guess.
you're really right with that. They're not as hard, like not as hard edge, not as militant. That's the word I was looking for. Like I was always a metalhead, so I came into punk sort of like the back end way, sort of way. So I was always like a Slayer fan and a Rage Against the Machine fan. So it kind of just, it was just as soon as I moved down to Kitchener and I started meeting like a lot of guys around the band hall area, around the bus station and shit like that. There was a lot of guys like the Dexter Holmes story guys and Molotov Kyle from Brutal Youth and all those guys. Those are the guys who like were the first introduction to the city I got. So it was like sink or swim sort of thing. Throw you in here. Here's all the bands. Get used to it, sort of thing. But Propaganda, I think, was the one that really like kind of for me.
They were another very, very significant band in my, like, especially in the political aspect of punk rock. And I mean, being a Canadian band too and everything, it just that much more so.
And on the scale of like Anti-Flag being as not militant, it's like almost to the complete other side of the spectrum when it comes to Propaganda. Like, whoo.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's good.
And at the same time, they still have that. They've got more of a musical feel that people who aren't solely into punk can relate to more than, like, say, even my band, I guess. Like, if you're not into punk, my band, like, it's gonna sound a little rough around the edges, and you're like, what the fuck's this kind of thing.
It's got that virtuosity. That's kind of how. Well, the first thing I realized with it was like Chris's guitar playing was just kind of like, what the hell? This is a punk band doing this? Like, it seemed more like a metal band when I first like Dear Coach's Corners and stuff like that. I was like, this is what?
Yep.
My buddy Tim showed me all this stuff.
Yep.
That's here we are now.
And I mean, honestly, truthfully, I've always considered them into the hardcore realm as well as punk.
Agreed.
But I mean, I guess they call themselves punk, so they're a punk band.
I don't like to differentiate between the two. I just see it as punk, really. Like, it's all punk to me.
I mean, it's a big umbrella.
It's just one's a lot more intense than the other, so to speak. It's kind of like how I look at like heavy metal sort of thing, like Judas Priest and all that, and then you got like Slayer and like the thrash bands and all that. It's like one end to the other.
Yep, like it's still metal, but at the same time there's the subtle differences and the things that do make it that genre, but it is still metal. But yeah, no, that Propaganda, especially like, I can't. Is it called A Guide to Cleaning Everything?
How to Clean Everything.
Or How to Clean Everything? Yeah, that album, like, is such a good album. Start to finish, it's probably still one of my favorite albums.
Is there like any like particular band that you like can draw right off the top of the head that you know is like a big influence for like Backbreaker or anything like that?
I'd say the two biggest influence bands, at least for me, anyways, like lyrically speaking, would be The Oppressed and The Angelic Upstarts.
I just bought The Oppressed album today, actually, that the Strength and Unity one.
Oh, very nice.
It's a banger of an album. Holy, check it out. It's on Bandcamp, everyone. Lord. Yeah, speaking of being on like the album getting a lot of things, you guys just came out on Up the Punks today. That just came out today.
Yeah, so that was volume number 1 of 2. The second one's going to be out on the 5th, and then they'll both be out physically on June 12th. But yeah, the first volume dropped today, and there's a lot of really, really good bands on it from all over the world. Yeah, fucking super excited about it.
Like a benefit album as well too, like partial proceeds go into something, if I'm not mistaken.
So all of the proceeds will be, we haven't fully decided on the exact organization yet, but all of the proceeds are going to an organization decided on by the bands who contributed. And so basically right now the idea is to fine. We just haven't decided exactly which organization yet, but one that deals with mental health in with youth mental health with refugee and migrant children.
Wow. That's a great charity. That's definitely something that helping the migrants is one thing, but like helping the kids through all what they've seen, like my God, like
Yeah, and truthfully, they're like everybody in those situations does need the help and does need as much help as they can get, but the children, they're the future, and if they don't get the help that they need sooner rather than later, unfortunately, it could cause a lot of adverse effects that we don't want to see.
No, not really. At all. Like, it was bad enough you have to go through what you have to go through it, then to have to put the next generation through that again, no. It's not healthy whatsoever.
Yep.
And that was through DCHC, yeah? Yeah.
Yep, that's through
so it's Death Crew Hardcore 519. Talk a little bit about that. That's like is that more of like a label sort of thing, or is it like just a group?
So basically that started way back in like 2005 and 6 with a group of friends. We were living outside of Kitchener, coming into town to go to shows, and there was a group of Kitchener kids who liked to try and pick fights with us and stuff, and for whatever reason, they gave us that name. And then in 2016, when my best friend Cody was killed by a drunk driver, he was somebody who was very instrumental in keeping that group of friends together, and someone who was always on top of the scene and going to shows and etc. When he passed away, I decided to turn it into basically a label and distribution kind of thing. It started off mostly doing and promoting shows in KW, and then more recently it's kind of turned it more into what it's become now, like the distro as well as the label kind of stuff. And yeah, things are going really well with it, and I'm just trying to keep a focus on bands and music with a message, and more specifically on sharp, rash, and anti-fascist bands as a whole. Not necessarily sticking to any genre, but as I am into the punk scene and everything, it's the more prevalent genre that appears, I guess. But yeah.
You said it started back in 2006, that area. So what is like the biggest change you've seen in the scene since then? That's something I've been fascinated about, just to like hear the history of the KW scene.
So back when I was in like grade 7 up to grade 10 high school, there was shows, but not a whole lot. And then it really boomed for a bit, like 3-4 years. There was a lot of shows all the time. Like, you could be going to 4 shows a week easily, all within Kitchener-Waterloo. And anything like punk to hardcore, like there's always something going on. And then things got really, really violent for a while. Like, really violent, to the point of like one of my buddies got stabbed with a set of drumsticks.
Jesus
kind
Christ.
Of shit. There was fights at every show, fights outside of the shows, people's cars getting smashed, like just stupid shit constantly. And then things kind of dwindle off for quite a while, from say I don't know, about 2011 till 2015, there wasn't too much going on.
That's when I was living down there. There wasn't, like, I didn't see, there was enough shows. Like, I went to quite a handful of shows down there, but like by the time I left there was just like a boom again, with like everywhere was like having shows, the Choose Your Own Festival, the punk rock flea market. I was like, son of a bitch, I picked the perfect time to leave.
And actually that's about, so like 2017, just after my accident, is when I actually started really promoting shows. And right around that, like, I got into promoting shows right around that time when everything started booming like that. And excuse me, I started off by working with a buddy, Kyle Wappler, who runs Have Hope shows in KW, and he works with like Chris Walton and those guys to do Choose Your Own Fest. Kind of had the help from all of them to be pointed in the right direction with promoting wise, and I kind of stuck with the more edgier punk rock and political stuff, and they like the shows that I did were a little more so political and edgy than the other ones, but at the same time, like, we got to a point where there would be 3-4 shows a weekend, and like sometimes you could go to 2 shows in the same night, or 3. Like, then there was a lot of like house shows, and there was a lot going on. And then this spring, actually I guess it was still end of winter before the spring, we lost Harmony Lunch.
I remember that.
Which was they were one of the they were a key venue in
and then
a lot of
then
stuff.
Chainsaw just closed a couple months ago too, which fucking broke my heart. Like, I spent most of my university career in that fucking bar.
And yeah, no, I can't even begin to count how many nights I've spent there, how many shows I've seen there, and same with Harmony Lunch. Both of them, like, 2 very instrumental places in the current KW scene, because a lot of the old venues were already either closed or moved on to different things. For example, like the Schwaben Club, they stopped hosting shows and started just doing like weddings and that kind of stuff. So right now we're back at a point of, beyond the COVID situation, we're back at a point of not having too many venues to use, and the ones that we do have to use are very expensive overhead. And yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see where and how the scene proceeds in the future after all this stuff is done.
Yeah.
But I feel there's going to be a very big reemergence in the DIY scene.
Oh,
now.
100%, especially because, like, business owners have gone out a bit, like, people have gone out of business because of this. Like you said, we've lost a couple great venues because of it. Yeah, what else are you going to do except put on shows in your house or whatever, at an old, I don't even know, you know what I mean? Just, like, anywhere you can find the place to put it on where it's not going to get shut down.
You can do it. Yeah, and that's the thing, too, is, like, this situation, COVID, like, sure, some businesses are getting back to business or whatever, but regardless, it's still not over. The bars and all that stuff are going to be the last ones to open. So who knows how many more venues we're going to lose, even if it only lasts another month, let alone 6, 8. So, like, we could be at a point once this is done where the only venues that are around are the Molson Amphitheater or whatever, like those big-ass...
No way you're ever filling those places.
Yeah, exactly. A place where no local punk band is going to play.
No.
So, but I can also see that being, again, like you said, house shows and underground shows like that will boom. But I think it'll also create a boom in the amount of bands out there as well.
And I also think we were just talking about this, just the idea of, like, how bands, like we said, they're not going to be able to play as many venues, and those venues are going to be gone. But here's something I just thought of, like, maybe those venues, like, before, like, some of those other bars that wouldn't have been open to it in the past, maybe want to do it again just for more revenue.
Yep.
Just trying to be optimistic.
Yeah, no, you're very right, too, that we could very well see that as well. We very well could see that, or, again, we could see the opposite. That's so unpredictable right now that, like, yeah, it's just
beyond unpredictable right now.
My job is literally a day at every day I hear something different about what's going to happen tomorrow. So yeah, I couldn't even I couldn't even imagine, honestly, right now.
I can only imagine. Like, I'm still hearing stuff from the construction industry, and they're supposed to be back to work, but nobody can figure out how to get all the PPE in that they need now, and how they're going to social distance properly on site, and blah, 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 blah. So, like, it's still going to be, even if when things do open, other than those pickup, takeout, and delivery places, like, they got so much work to do, logistically speaking, before they'll actually be able to start business again.
That's pretty much where I'm at with my job. They have to put up like plexiglass and shit. We have to have like a greeter to like make sure we don't have too many people in the house in the store, sort of thing. But like, yeah, it's fucking bizarre.
And no, that's just some stores that I go into now, it's like you have to have a mask on if you want to come in. You have to be wearing gloves, and you got to use that hand sanitizer that's sitting at the front door.
Yeah.
And like only certain amounts of numbers, and yeah, no, exactly like what you said. So
you guys definitely have it way more hardcore down there because it's like a big city and all that. But yeah, 21,000 people here. It's not as hardcore like with that, but it's still like I have had to wait online to get into a grocery store before. That was a first.
Yeah.
But but like, if that's the worst I had to go through, then fucking boo-hoo. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
Fuck. Some people just don't understand. Like, it could be a lot worse than what you're making it out to be right now. Like.
Yep.
And these are still the same people like crying about everything else.
Yep. And it's just like, yeah, last week you wanted your right to protest, but this week because somebody got killed by the cops, they don't deserve it.
Exactly.
It's such bullshit. And your whole right to protest is because you need a fucking haircut, not because your life was being threatened.
Not because of anything actually like socially relevant, just because you wanted to fucking get back to your privileged life of being able to do whatever the hell you wanted because you had the money to do it.
Yep. Well, your norm.
Instead of like something that's actually meaningful. Get together and do something meaningful for the society, but you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's asking a lot for these people, I guess, eh?
And honestly, I think if this goes on much longer, a lot of people and a lot of businesses are going to start realizing that they do need to reform their model around community versus around money.
Yep. Why do you think there was that little period there where it just kind of like petered out? Was it just due to like the violence and all that in the scene, or was it just not any places to like do anything?
I'd say violence would have been probably one of the bigger aspects of it, because that is what led to a lot of venues not wanting to have shows.
That makes sense.
Due to whether it was just insurance or having to get extra security, or there's all these different things.
And was it just like outsiders causing the violence and all that too, or was it just like punk on punk sort of thing?
No, it wasn't any outsider thing at all. Like, it was literally like,
it wasn't near as bad, but like when you hear about shows in the States with like all the crew stuff, like 5'9", or like the straight edge guys, or
like the family hung around Circle 1.
Yeah, like no, like exactly that. Like it was groups who were like, for example, the group of us who came from the town just outside of the city, we stuck together. And then there was like the group of kids who were the straight edge kids, who they all stuck together. And then there was like kids who all came from one school, and like, yeah, it was basically just little cliques, basically stupid bullshit, really.
Yeah, but yeah, what can you do, right? It's like the Warriors.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's.
But I mean, hey.
Like when
it was quite.
By the time I had come to the scene, it was like I lived down there from like 2011 to about 2017. So I lived down there for about 6-7 years. There wasn't like violence when it came to the shows that I did go and see. There was like it was like I don't want to say like a family event, but it felt like you're like everyone here is like friends sort of thing. Everyone here doesn't want to like do something to kick it off, and the only time anything sort of kicked off was because of somebody else from outside coming in fucking with it, basically.
And that's what it became. Like now at this point, anytime anything happens, even like you said, from about 2011, 2012 on, people kind of started realizing, like, or at least what I saw, people started realizing what was happening, what we were doing to our own scene. And yeah, it got more. Some people didn't show up to shows anymore, and then other people, it got more united than it was before. So it became a point of, like you said, people from the outside coming and causing shit.
It just keeps reminding me of that Rebel Spell song, "Bring Him In," just like a history of history of action, but history of inaction base or practice of inaction, but like just stuff like that, just like everything's, it can be so great because you can literally do anything and you can be anything you want as long as you're not an asshole. Like honestly, it just blows my mind. And like, and Kitchener's like one of, like, I couldn't believe like how deep the scene was there when I first stepped into it. I was like, this is all happening here. Like everything here is like, it's a college town. Like all these college kids are all partying off at like the up in that area and all that. And here, like me and my buddy who was down in Kitchener, we'd hop on the bus and go down to Kitchener and see the shows down there because it was much better. But like, yeah, it's unbelievable.
Now it's to the point where, like, basically anytime something does happen, it's usually a group of drunk college kids walking past the venue or coming in or whatever and, like, causing shit.
Yep.
Like, the one show that I did 2 years ago, probably now, middle of the summer, and Harmony Lunch had this big garage bay door.
Yep.
That rolled up, and we had it open. And a band was playing, and these group of college kids walked past, and they're just being idiots, making fun of people dancing and stuff like that, and like giving like the devil horn symbol and all that crap, just making fun of people, being stupid.
Yeah.
And so basically everybody let it go because they're just being dumb. And then one kid who's trailing behind the rest of them decides that he's going to dive through the garage door and tackle the drummer.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Needless to say, that didn't end too well for him as far as friends, but yeah. It's like, most of the time when something happens now, or even since basically 2011, like you said, it's been someone from the outside, someone who's too fucked up or whatever, doing something stupid.
Yep.
Never. Yeah, it's not like it was. It's not like mass violence and group fights and shit like that.
Yeah, I read about that shit in NoFX's book. I read about like all like the whole crazy California scene back in the early 90s and 80s. That was fucking insane. Like that sounded like literal like war zone. Like you better come like strapped or you're gonna get killed, basically. Like Jesus Christ, this is punk rock, man. What the fuck?
No, it was definitely that way for a while. Like Camp House, what? Yeah, and quite a few scenes had their violent episodes. Because I mean, like, if you look back on like New York hardcore in the 80s, for example,
same thing.
And it was crazy violence there, like people getting stabbed on the regular, like gang brawl stabbings and guns and just crazy shit that truthfully has no place in the scene, really. Like, what's the point?
No, none at all. It's you're killing each other just for nothing, not even over something, just nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, there's no reason. It was just pointless because you looked at me wrong or whatever.
Because you like that band and I don't, sort of thing. Like, fuck. So
Which again, ridiculous.
So we were talking about run-ins with students, but have you guys had any have you had any run-ins with like any Nazis or any fucking boneheads down there, anything like that?
One time,
Really?
and oddly enough, like I want so the very first time that I brought a band here from Montreal, to come play, somebody had told this guy that punk rock shows happen at Harmony Lunch. And he's out front and he's talking to me. Everything seemed totally fine. Like, he's like a 40-year-old dude, crop cut hair. He's wearing a pair of Chucks, just a normal, like a Vans t-shirt. Nothing special. And he's talking and talking. And all of a sudden he starts going on, oh, when's the real music come on? This is pussy punk. This is pussy punk. And we're like, what do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? And he's going on still saying the same crap. But yeah, so he's talking the same shit over and over and over. This is whatever that means. This is pussy punk, he's saying.
I've never heard that before.
No, me either. And like, I still to this day cannot figure out what it means. Like, the band that was playing at the time too was like a 80s style street punk band. Like, it was, I still to this day do not understand what set him off there. Maybe he saw an anti-fascist logo or whatever. Maybe that's what it was. But something set him off. And he's going on out front, and then all of a sudden it starts turning into this like weird semi-nationalist kind of crap, talking about Justin Trudeau and blah blah blah. And so at this point we were kind of just like, should we just like leave? Like, what do we do about this guy? And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he goes back to the whole pussy punk thing, and then he starts dropping N-bombs and like swearing at people and like just, full on racist piece of shit. And so it turned out that somebody in the venue knew who he was, and he'd been around KW for a while. He was not known, but like, was a bonehead. So I went, and the band I have from Montreal, they Union Thugs.
Yep.
And they are an extremely anti-fascist band, anti-Nazi band.
I wonder what gave it away.
So I went and I told them, hey, this guy's here, this is what just happened. Needless to say, within 10 minutes, the guy was gone from the venue and not ever coming back.
Jesus. Unbelievable.
So that's been like my run-in with promoting shows with Nazis, in a sense. Other than that, online, and then back when I was like really young, I saw what happened at the Kitchener skate park with the I can't even remember what they were called. There was some the KW Skins or so, I don't know. There's some skinhead group, but they're a neo-Nazi skinhead group.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s, early 2000s, and they basically got run out of town because they tried. I can't remember the guy's name. Some dude from Calgary, was prominent in the Nazi shit. Tried recruiting people at the skateboard park, along with these neo-Nazis, and that was when I the first time saw anti-fascists at all. At the time, it was called the Kitchener-Waterloo Anti-Racist Action.
I remember that.
And yeah, they came in probably 25 people strong, beat the fuck out of them, and then a week later there was an article in the KW Record saying Nazis out of Kitchener, and it posted the pictures of the three main guys. And yeah, we haven't really had too many issues since then, but there's a few known local shitheads / there's starting to be a lot more within the younger group, especially in the metal scene in KW, and not necessarily like skinhead Nazis, but like metalhead, blah blah blah, black metal, neo-pagan, whatever.
Fucking Count Grishnock shit, Varg Vikernes.
Yeah, like the wannabe Viking crap and
Soldiers of Odin bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking pieces of shit. Oh man, that shit, it gets me so riled up, that shit. Because
me too.
Last summer I literally took down by myself 4 Nazi stickers in this fucking town. Like it's unbelievable.
Were you the one who posted the pictures of those stickers?
No, I didn't take any pictures of them.
Because I saw and this was before I had met you. Obviously, I saw someone post pictures of those stickers that were put up, in sound.
Oh, maybe it was me.
And
fuck, I don't remember.
I'm not sure. But me and my buddy, we went there and we tried to find them because I at the time was living up close to Owen Sound in Fletcherton.
Yep.
And we went and we threw refugees welcome stickers up all over the place.
Oh, okay, yeah. We definitely crossed paths then, because I have pictures of those stickers everywhere down here or up here.
Yeah, we never saw any of those stickers or anything, but we saw the news article and all that crap about it, and just like, you know what, fuck it, I got all these extra stickers, so let's go do something.
Yeah, man, I couldn't believe it. Like, well, I shouldn't say I couldn't believe it. Like, I know there's morons in this area. Like, you grow up in the country, you don't really know black people, you don't really come into people, like, you don't know people of color around here. It's pretty much white people around here. But still. Anyways, like, I just couldn't believe it.
No excuse, yeah.
I just couldn't fucking believe it. Like, how many, like, of all places, this little shit town, like, anywhere, and they're everywhere. And there was one that was a screwdriver sticker, and I remember that because had I not known what that was, I would have just walked past it because it looked like just another band sticker.
A band sticker.
But I knew who Screwdriver was, and I was like, not my town.
Yeah, no, exactly. Thankfully, honestly, around KW, the only thing that, like, we had that whole thing with that Chris Vanderweed guy.
Yeah.
The guy, helmet guy or whatever.
I saw that Chris Walton and him had a bit of a flame war there about that. I saw that.
Yeah, we set up a rally and went and countered his stupid rally he had at City Hall, and he never showed up. And so basically, I don't know, there's a few people around town like him. There's some wannabe Soldiers of Odin guys that aren't actually Soldiers of Odin, but are like just on their Facebook they're Soldiers of Odin.
They like the ideology type thing, and they like the logo.
Yeah, basically.
I know people
and they're still like straight up pieces of shit, but they're not not the guys in the street. The guys here in the street, like, basically they're like those Christian preacher guys, and like that Chris Vanderweed guy, and like people, we've got a few like identitarian people, like, which to me is so weird that someone's trying to bring the European identitarian movement here.
I don't even know what the fuck that is.
It's a right-wing populist movement that started in Germany. They're that right-wing group who went and they put like I can't remember what it said now. They put a giant sign across Brandenburg Gate that was basically not idolizing, but like backing Hitler's ideology. It was the thing, whatever the word is, it's supposed to mean like the youth are gonna uprise, and I don't know, it was I can't remember, but yeah, they got a lot of like media attention, basically a Proud Boys of Germany.
Proud Boys, what a fucking joke.
Yeah.
Because I did remember my time down there. I did meet a lot of I don't want to say met a lot of them, but like just like a lot of like these white pride guys, like the Aryan guys who'd been in prison and shit like that. That was just like, I didn't know that was still a thing. Like this hard on the outside, anyways.
There's a lot of guys like that down here too.
Well, and
I actually saw a guy walking one day downtown. And he had it was a red shirt with black writing on it inside of a white circle. But it said 100% white boy. And it was like, if you don't know what he's trying to say, it's not that big of a deal, really. But
if you know, you know.
Nazi bullshit.
But yeah, you said we were talking about Sharp. We talked about Sharp just a bit there earlier. You were the one who actually got me involved with Sharp KW here.
Oh. Yeah, so I don't know, we started this band, and I've always been trying to figure out a way to actually get people more involved in KW. And it seems like, or it did seem prior to that anyway, that there was a decent skinhead scene within KW. And like just from what we saw at our shows and whatnot, and being that they were coming to our shows, it seemed as if they were anti-racist and anti-fascist.
Actual skinheads.
Yeah. And so starting the Sharp thing honestly came out of just talking with Roddy from The Oppressed and guy Paul, the vocalist and guitar player from Permanent Revolution from Brisbane, Australia. And then a really good friend of mine who I met when I was in Germany, Ludwig, is really involved with some rash stuff out there, as well as some friends in Montreal. And yeah, it seemed one of the better ways to get people out of the music scene involved politically more so, and also stand up and say, like, look, yeah, we're skinheads, but we're not fucking Nazis. Like, just because my head's shaved does not mean that. Yeah, so kind of has evolved from there to what it is now in the last couple weeks, and we'll see where it goes.
Exactly. Yeah, it's because something like, even like I didn't even really know that myself. Like, even being in the punk scene, I didn't really like the whole skinhead thing. I didn't really understand it. I was like, you hear skinheads, you just think those neo-Nazi fucks you see everywhere, but you don't. But like, if you look at the history of it, they weren't that. They were working class guys that loved punk and reggae music in England. And
exactly, and then for the most part,
and then the National Front took it over from there, and then co-opted it to be what it is, what most people think of it now. But yeah,
and not only like it being working class, but for the most part, in the beginning, was fully influenced by the Jamaican Rude Boys. So like it's a black, like, and like the Trojan reggae at the time that was being spun in the dance halls and stuff. Like, it was the convergence of the white and black working class. So like, for anybody to deny that or to try and co-opt it with racism, like, you're not a skinhead, and
a bonehead.
That's where the bonehead thing, yeah. And then for me, like, I always knew about like the Sharp thing, and I always understood that, but I was always more, for a long time, I was really into punk, and really into like street punk for the most part, because it was more political. And at that point, I didn't really know too much about Boy or ska, even, truthfully. And then I got really, really into like New York and LA hardcore, and which had like the messages of unity into it, as well as like the more radical anarchist, sometimes anti-fascist
kind of ideals. And then just, I don't know, like in the past probably 5 years or so, it kind of, the Oi stuff came more prevalent because it seemed more mature, I guess, in the message, but also in the action, because it kind of, I don't know, a lot of stuff seems like it's either complaining about something without an answer, or just being too nihilistic kind of thing. And then I really found that the Oi stuff, the sharp stuff, the rash stuff, not only was it about like being a better person for yourself, but also being like more community oriented, having your friends are your family, and like on top of it then the anti-fascist aspect and the international aspect to it all. And yeah, like I said, it just seemed like the more grown up version.
It kind of touches on something we were talking about earlier when it comes to hardcore and punk, how we were making that distinction between the two. It's almost like punk is like, I don't want to cheapen punk because it's just the shit. Like it's like it's like
I totally
like you said there, like it's more grown up and actually not like doing something, like having answers and solutions, as opposed to where I know a lot of punk bands like will just bitch and moan, and then or just be like complete trolls about everything, like no effect,
yeah,
like
and
no,
I mean,
like no effects, like they're just like a jerk, like they just jerk off and just have like, you know, they fuck around and make fun songs and whatever like that. But then there's other bands that are like, they talk about this stuff, but they actually walk the walk with the stuff when it comes to like the political stuff.
Exactly.
And I think that's the difference, I think, right there between like what you would consider just normal punk and then hardcore.
Yeah, and no, I totally agree. Like it was, yeah, something that actually like, and not necessarily, maybe not having the answers, but willing to take action to get
the direct
to the necessary
action, yes.
places. Yeah, and instead, yeah, we're not signing fucking petitions and bullshit like hippie crap. Like, sorry, that's what punk was supposed to be against.
Yep. It says the long hair here, but yeah. My hair's past my shoulder, brother. Like, holy hell.
That's okay. I had my hair down to here at one point.
Yep. But yeah, that's also something that I'm real glad that's not a thing anymore. Was like back in the day, the whole chopping off the long hairs sort of thing. Like, that's fucked up.
I agree, and again, too, that's like that comes back to that like what we were talking about earlier about how a scene gets destroyed. Like you're all there to support the music, the underground music, the bands, and the message, but then you're gonna argue over, I've got short cropped hair and you've got long hair, so that
it's a
what
clique.
The fuck?
It becomes a clique at that point. Yeah. It's just like back to the Motor League. That's all I can think of. Just like your stupid shitty zine. I'd rather go back and highlight triptychs than listen to your bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's crazy how shit
like
can
even
get like that.
A band that's more metal too, even like Dr. Acula. Do you know?
Yep,
what I mean?
yep, I know who that is.
Fuck your scene. All your shorts are brown and green, and like that. Honestly, that line is just stuck in my head. I never really liked Dr. Acula. They were too horror punk for me. But that line just stuck in my head ever since I heard that song, and it's true. Everything's so clicky and so clicky.
And Walton made a post about this a couple, like I think it was just as all like this COVID was going on, but like he's basically saying like this is the end to like we need to put this end to like elitism within our scene and whatnot. We're all in this together. I forget his exact words with it, but it was something that was along the line going like, "Fuck yeah!" Like that's exactly what we need. Like we need bring them in. Like
I totally agree. Like especially like why are a lot of division too? It seems now is like, so there's the punk scene, there's the metal scene, and then there's like the EDM kids or whatever. And it's like, why are we dividing like that? Like, who cares if someone likes electronic music over punk music?
Yeah.
Like, really, who gives a fuck? That like, it doesn't make a difference in my life. I still like punk rock.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I know when I was down, like when I was living down there, I know like the fuck was that festival called? The big one they have there, the EDM.
Boy?
Not Koi, no, the EDM one they have there, the big one.
Ever After.
Yes, I remember like when that came out. There was like it's crazy how like the city will be like all over promoting stuff like that, where it's literally just, I don't want to shit on this, but like just people going and getting fucked up basically for a couple days, as opposed to like bands putting on like these shows for like benefits, like cancer benefits or fucking, you know, social program benefits. It blew my mind, like seeing like just the night, like how the city wants to glorify one aspect because it will bring in all this money and blah 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 blah, blah. But the other aspect of these bands are like local bands. They put the money into local venues for local buyers and for local people. Why aren't we promoting this just as much as that?
I couldn't agree more with you. And like, again, there's nothing wrong with having an international festival like that. Like, it's great. It brings attention to Kitchener-Waterloo. But when it's all about corporatism and money and not about the community or the scene, like, I went one year to Ever After, and I've got buddies who go every single year. There hasn't been a single year since the whole thing started that they have put a local artist on the main stage.
And that's a goddamn shame, because I know there's a lot of local like DJs and shit and who live in that area, and they're fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. There really are.
Support your local scene, goddammit.
Yeah, they're just as good, if not better, than those $500,000 a night DJs. There's no difference there.
Yeah, pretty much. But it just always just, I shouldn't say struck me as odd, because as soon as we talk about money and like corporatism and making money, it all makes sense. But like, why would you pick that over your community?
Right.
Like every time.
Right. I couldn't agree
Preaching
more.
to the choir, but you know, it still needed to be said.
Yeah.
So with By Any Means Necessary, was there any like big influence towards like the album as it is, like when it comes to songwriting and all that, like in terms of bands or anything like that?
I'd say it would truthfully be completely different for each one of us. At the time, like, I mean, so we had the songs that we were covering prior that definitely had influence on it. Dropkick Murphys, we did Which Side Are You On and Never Alone. Coxbar, we did Take 'Em All. Why can't I remember names of songs right now?
Because I asked you a question about
right.
it.
We did Election Day and Perry Boys by Old Firm Casuals, and we also did Working Class Kids by Last Resort, except for we changed some lyrics around in that one. And so I'd say those songs and bands definitely influenced the album, the sounds. Like, I mean, for example, the thing that's sticking out on the top of my head right now, because I just said the Last Resort song, Anti-Fascist Oi has kind of that more hardcore, angry side of the Oi than they...
That song is like a song I see can be like chanted at rallies and shit like that, though. Like, anti-fascist, oi, oi, oi. Like, it's perfect. It's perfect for that.
But then, like, all I meant was, like, it's more like that. It's more angry, straight to the point, violent, quick song, just like the way Working Class Kids is, where Union Made would be more so like, say, a Perry Boys kind of style musically, because it's got like those drawn out harmonic choruses and like the like the way the guitar plays out. But like, again, influentially wise, like for me at the time when I was writing lyrics for that album, I was listening to a lot of
The Oppressed, Oi Polloi, Stage Bottles. Who else was I listening to at that time? A lot of back then. I was listening to a lot of hip hop at the time too, especially like KRS-One and Immortal Technique.
Fuck yes.
Well, like yeah, no, honestly, I couldn't pinpoint it to a specific artist or band. For me, it would honestly just be more things that were going on in life, politically speaking, at the time. And then just
I was gonna ask that because I know "Guilty." You can definitely you can definitely tell it was written about bombing Iran at that time too. I could pick that out
so
right away.
funny story about that one is we changed the lyrics in both verses to make it about Iran because of what just happened. But then also,
Oh
yeah,
really?
so that song was written by Scream Bloody Murder, which is the other three guys in my band were in another band called Scream Bloody Murder prior, and that they wrote that song, and then we changed it a little bit, like the tempo a little bit. We made it a little bit slower. I think he might have changed the guitar solo for our recording, and then yeah, I changed the lyrics so that it was Iran instead of Iraq, because originally it was written about the Iraq War. And then we changed the second verse to reflect, excuse me, how the media kind of plays games with people and gets them choosing sides based on emotions, and how it's all kind of predestined to happen anyways, regardless of which left or right side you choose. Like in terms of like the liberals and the conservatives, or the Democrats and the Republicans, not meaning left and right as the whole spectrum, because
The political parties,
yeah,
basically.
like the mainstream political parties, because like obviously I consider myself an anarchist, or like a anarcho-syndicalist, and like partial socialist, I guess. And yeah, I definitely would consider myself on the left spectrum, but not in the mainstream left. And that's where I think
Yep. Couldn't have said it
a
any
lot of people
better.
don't see that either. They just want to pick left or right. Left or right is liberal or conservative. Period. They don't understand that there's a three-dimensional spectrum to all of it.
Nuance is a thing that people don't really like to talk about when it comes to politics, especially, well, I shouldn't say just especially in this country, but yes, this country particularly. Like when it comes to voting, if you're voting left, you get either the Liberals or you get the NDPs, or if you really wanted to, the Greens. And none of those parties are even close to what I would actually want out of, like,
Yep.
you know what I mean? Like, it is, but it isn't. Like, everything you just said there, narco-syndicalist with a bit of, like, socialism. That's basically what I am here as well, too. Just working class, like, labor politics, basically, within, like, a framework of just liberal ideology in some respects. Like, but at the same time, like, who are you going to vote for? Like, are we just going to keep voting for, like, the same fucking people we always have, and left, right, Pepsi Cola, Pepsi Coke, you know, what difference does it make? Like,
continue down that same path of insanity, really. Like left to right, left to right, left to right, and nothing ever changes. So like, I don't know. That's why personally I've never voted. Yeah, and honestly, like with what's going on in the States right now, I know it's starting over police brutality and like the killing of black men, women, and children by racist cops. But with the amount of people who are standing up and the amount of direct action that's being taken, and radical direct action, we really could see and what Trump just decided to do today, we could really see this turn into the revolution.
I see it as a big, like, radicalizing moment for a lot of Americans. Like, definitely this whole, like, COVID crisis has definitely done that. Like as far as I've seen, like woken up a lot of people to the ideas that things could actually be a lot better and things could actually be a lot different if we decided to make these changes together, sort of thing. And now with this, and now with literally the states on fire with over, like we were just talking about, I think you're right. I think you're right with that. Like people are seeing that it's not the ballot that's going to push these changes through. It's literally going out there and saying, no, you cannot deny this to us anymore. We have to have something done about this now. And riots work.
And and honestly, like I watched a video of this girl talking yesterday. They were at one of the senates.
I saw that video. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And she said, like, you taught us violence. You taught us looting. Like, and she's 100% right.
Yep.
And
it's that old.
Unfortunately, like it is the same thing with World War II. Like, look what Hitler was doing. Unfortunately, it took worse violence to be able to stop him. And unfortunately, sometimes people see it as violence, but it is an act of self-defense. And unfortunately, it needs to come to that sometimes for people to listen.
Yeah, especially when it's something like, ever since, like, it's been going on for like hundreds of years, but Trayvon Martin was the one that really, like, when that one, just even thinking about it now, it still fucking breaks my heart just thinking about that kid. Like that could have easily been me. That could have easily been anybody I know, just because they were walking home, but that whole thing, and then him getting off, the fucking Zimmerman getting off on it and everything like that. That's where I was kind of like, oh, okay, there's something way, 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 way bigger at play than just a black kid getting shot in the streets here and no one giving a shit. Sort of.
Exactly. No, honestly, and I remember that case. Excuse me. I remember that case as well, and just, like you said, you sitting here talking about it, like, it just gives me goosebumps to think about the whole thing. And unfortunately, it's happens over and over and over, and not just, it's not like a monthly occurrence, it's not a yearly occurrence or something like that. Like, it's on the daily, and it's happening in multiple places and on the daily, and it, like, I can't believe it's taken this long for people to get to this point and to realize these things. Like people that I never ever would have expected to be sharing or saying anything about what's going on are fully on side with the rioting protesters. They want to see something actually happen, and they want to go to a protest. They've never been to one in their life, and like it's really waking people up to the fact that unless we do something real, nothing's gonna change. And unfortunately, doing something real now means threatening their structure of power. I mean, not unfortunately either, in my opinion, but...
No, it needs to be. Like, that's how things change, is when you change your relationship to, like, your relations to the power structure and how you relate to that. That's when society changes. It's the personal, it's on the personal level. Like, that be the change you want to see in the world, but it's just in relation to, like, the power structure. Once you've changed how you interact with that, you've already changed the structure itself.
I totally agree.
Once again, like, all I've done for like 2 months now is just read anarchist literature and shit like that, just getting more and more crazier and just more and more radical as the days go on. Just like that line from Apocalypse Now, every time Charlie squats in the bush, he gets stronger. I'm Charlie in the bush getting stronger.
No, it's funny to think, too, like, the pandemic has honestly only given people the time to be able to see and realize these things, because even now, like with the murder of George Floyd
and then also with what happened with Regis Kerchinsky Paquette in Toronto, even. Like, I really, truly, if the economy was fully open, blah, 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 people were at work, people were at school and all that, the normal stresses of life, it wouldn't be what it is.
It would have just been another news
story.
That,
and, like, maybe another Ferguson within Minneapolis and stuff like that, but it wouldn't have spread like wildfire like it has. Like America is burning right now. Like, every major city across the U.S. has riots, has buildings on fire, cop cars burnt out, precincts destroyed, and rightfully so. And I really think that if the pandemic hadn't have happened, if people weren't at home, weren't scrolling through Facebook constantly, watching the news constantly, that there wouldn't be as much of a flame behind what's happening right now.
You're 100% right on all that. Like, it's definitely it's like a perfect storm.
Especially since we watched like the extreme right-wing groups do all that armed protest shit last couple of weeks with absolutely zero consequence, like, at all.
Literally standing face to face, screaming at cops, and they walked away unharmed. And then there's people who are on the front line right now just standing there getting shot in the face with rubber bullets and losing eyes. I've seen that twice now.
Could you, in New York, the police, they drove a vehicle into the protesters, like, as if this was Charlotte. I
saw that too.
Where are you, the fucking Nazis down in Charlottesville? Like, seriously.
Yep. And I think it was in New York too. I saw one of the cops flash the white power symbol at one of the protesters, and they got cheers for it. It's fucked, man. Like, honestly, like, the one place that I saw didn't have anything like that, where the cops actually were decent, was Flint, and they said, "No, we're not beating you. We're putting down our helmets. We're putting down our shields. What do you want us to do?" And they all said, "Walk with us."
And honestly, like, at that point, that they said that they asked the community, that they put their batons and their helmets down, they stopped being police officers and became members of the community.
I think that's actually the time they became police officers. If we're looking at what it actually means, like, it's to be a pillar of a community, an ethical pillar of your community. You're to police your community as a member of the community, not an agent enforcing laws. It's a difference between policing and soldiering. The Wire was the TV show that pointed that out to me. It's a difference between occupying your enemy territory and then this being your neighborhood. And I think at that moment, that's when everyone saw, like, oh no, this is what it should be when it comes to the police force and
there's a video too from somewhere in Florida. I can't remember where. It was like a smaller place, not a big city or anything. But they had a rally, and there was a couple hundred people showed up, and there was 2 cops who joined over to the other side, and they chanted with the protesters about fuck police brutality, and, like, straight up we're chanting it, and it's like, good for you, but unfortunately right now we're at a point where you're gonna have to take that uniform completely off and come over here and join us until all of the bad cops are arrested, until all of the, you know what I mean,
until the system has been, like, what's the word, like, exhumed, like, taken out all, like, the bad apple sort of thing. But what they did there is, like, trying to distance themselves from it, say, look, not all cops. I understand that. I completely understand that. But at the same time, what you just said, you got to take off that uniform first, bud.
Exactly. And I
because this is a job at the end of the day.
Yep. And, like, honestly, I totally get that, because, like, what we were talking about earlier, like the skinhead culture thing. Not all skinheads are Nazis. Not all, you know what I mean? Not all Nazis are skinheads either. And
exactly,
like, it's just generalizing and creating more issues that way by having something like that. But at the same time, because there is an institution of power behind you and behind your badge, and because you are the agents of the state, you unfortunately only represent that while you are wearing that badge. And even if you come over to our side right now to say not all cops, but you're still benefiting from that system of power, what difference does it make?
It's like privilege.
Exactly.
It's like the white privilege sort of thing. But it's even worse because you have privilege over white people too as well.
And then you got a gun on top of it.
Exactly. You have the license to fucking kill and, you know, you'd put your boot on people, basically. Yep. Like, yeah. So yeah, I totally agree with you there. You'd have to like completely strip that away for it to be like, no, this is us as people in the community, and that was my former job sort of thing. Because that, like I said, like that's what, like that Blue Lives Matter shit really got me fucking steamed up when it first started coming out. Because like, bitch, this is a job. You can walk away from this at any time.
Yep.
Like, honestly.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. And then on top of it too, all it's doing is, one, demoralizing, and two, denouncing what Black Lives Matter is. And it's the same thing as that all lives matter bullshit. It's like,
it's diluting what they're saying.
Yeah, like, okay, so if there's one house on fire on your entire street, should the fire department come and spray down all of the houses that aren't on fire with water just because all houses matter? Like, yes, everybody's house matters, but right now, this is the house that's on fire. And I saw someone make that, like, equation on, I think it was Twitter. And, like, I was like, no, that's, like, the absolute perfect thing to explain that to people. Like, if your house was on fire, would you want the fire department to show up to your street and start spraying down the houses that are not on fire first before they come and spray down your house because all houses matter? Like,
that was when I'm in the same boat. That was the first time I heard that, like, a couple days ago, and I was like, bam, like, they just put that perfectly, like, instead of just like, yeah, and just try, like, you can tell people till you're blue in the face, like there's this, that's the other thing that gets me up the wall too. It's just like, you can tell people this, you can show them the evidence right in front of their fucking face that this system is racist, this system is terrible, this system has done unbelievably violent and brutal things to people, and they still don't, they choose to look past it. It just doesn't, it blows my mind.
Or they'll either look past it, or they'll find a way to justify it through, well, we wouldn't be the society that we are today, or this, or whatever the fuck it is. And it's like, well, no.
What about those people?
Yeah, exactly. What about all the people who you denied humanity to?
Exactly. And this is just the chickens coming back to roost with that. Like you said, you taught us this violence. You taught us how to loot. You've turned us into these dehumanized people. What the fuck did you expect?
Exactly. And when there's no other avenue to be able to show your anger, not only like legally speaking, but where someone will listen, then like why would you even waste your time?
Basically, what you said there was this Malcolm X was who talked about that a lot. That influenced me about that. Is basically say like it's okay to be nonviolent with people who understand what nonviolence is, but when you're dealing with an enemy who doesn't know what nonviolence is, you're wasting your time.
Exactly, and like that's what I was meaning to say. Excuse me. When you've exhausted all other options, like in the States right now, like groups like Black Lives Matter or anybody who's leading the way in these protests, do you really think that they haven't tried sending letters to their MPs, to their senators, signing petitions, making phone calls, doing Twitter storms, all this hippy-dippy bullshit that didn't do anything? You think they didn't try that? Like, no, they tried. They tried for years. This has been going on, like, let's even just say since the start of the Black Lives Matter movement after Ferguson. And that was 2015, or 14.
Like
Anyways, regardless, so like even let's just say within the last 10 years, you think nobody's signed a petition or sent an email or a phone call to their senator in the States or tried to make a court case, a civil suit against the police or blah, blah, blah. How many have we seen in the news over and over and over that where the cops win or they get to keep their job or this or that or whatever it is? Like, they have exhausted all other options. This is what's left, and if you're not going to listen, then this is what's left.
And this isn't even the end of it too. Like as I'm looking at this is like stage 1 of potential 4.
Yeah.
Like how we are right now, this is like stage 1. Because the next level up is Christopher Dorner's everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a whole other different ball of wax.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say when it starts turning into fucking body count cop killer in every single city, they'll second guess thinking or listening. Unfortunately, like,
you'd think, like, you'd hope, anyways. Like shit.
Yeah, but I mean, and then again, unfortunately, like, you've already got Trump calling in the National Guard. You've already got Trump calling any and all members of Antifa or whatever. So anyone who labels themselves an anti-fascist or is in cahoots with a so-called anti-fascist is now on the terrorist watch list. And like,
I saw that.
Put me on your terrorist list, Trump. You're the biggest terrorist in the world right now. So what does that mean coming from you? It doesn't mean a thing.
But the only other issue I have with that is it's other people out here too that are starting to see this. Like I was on Instagram just before I came on this, and people are talking shit about anarchists like wrecking things and putting like graffiti everywhere. And it's just like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, this is like nothing. These people are like your allies. Why are we trying to like split this even further?
And
just because they're wearing like black bloc clothing, like
and
shit.
Honestly, too, like that's one of my biggest issues with the whole liberal left is anytime they see any type of radical action take place, they want to distance themselves from it. They want to denounce it and say that it's violence or it's this or it's that. And like, especially like right now, anybody, like, if you're denouncing what people and the protesters are doing in the States right now, you're choosing the side of the police and you're choosing the side of racism. And that, in my opinion, is what these liberal groups are doing by distancing themselves from it, by saying, oh, violence is wrong and blah, blah, blah. It's like, you're not on the ground living it. Most of these people who are saying this stuff come from places of privilege. And, yeah, it's ridiculous.
And I just wanted to touch on some more backbreaker stuff before we wrap up here. Have you had what was your favorite venue, you guys?
To be honest, it would be a toss-up right now for me between Gerard Theatre in Toronto on our EP release weekend, and then Co-op Catacombs in Montreal for Revolution Fest. Both venues were just hands down like some of the coolest venues I've been in. But then on top of it, just the crowd and the atmosphere was so much more. As people who were there more so with the exact same mentality and ideals as the band versus coming to see a punk rock show. And it was, just the whole energy of was different. And those two venues, I couldn't choose between the two, truthfully.
That's okay. You put more than one's all right. Is there a favorite band that you guys have played a bill with or anything like that, or would like to play the bill with, sort of thing?
Honestly, Urban Viet Cong from Italy, they put on an insane show. We played with them in Kitchener, and then we played with them the night after in Montreal at Revolution Fest. And yeah, they just the amount of energy that they brought to the stage, the show, them, even the fact that like they spoke Italian the entire time, that didn't mean anything. Like it was amazing. Like they were probably my favorite band to share the stage with so far. But honestly, like there hasn't been a band that I haven't enjoyed sharing the stage with so far either, or enjoyed their set either prior to ours or afterwards, truthfully. But if I could, we were supposed to go to Montreal in April for Oi Fest, and we were going to go on stage with the Oppressed, and they were going to do a cover of our song Union Made. So I guess that would be who I would like to do something with in the future, mostly.
That'd be a hell of a fucking. That would be a hell of a tour.
But there's a hell of
or a hell of a show even.
Oh, I would absolutely love to play with them, and honestly, everyone in the band, especially Roddy, the vocalist, like I talk to him almost daily. They're amazing people, and yeah, they're definitely, once all this COVID stuff's done, they're planning on coming back down to Canada, so we'll see what happens there.
Fuck. I'll come down to Kitchener to see that. Fucking hell. I miss that city so much. Like it is what it is. It's not like the best city in the world you're ever going to go to, but it's got heart, and that's what I like about it, and that's what I've always liked about it. Even when I was living up in the student ghetto area and all that, I still like Kitchener. Like it was just like, it's just, there's just so much you could do, and there's so many people like us, sort of thing.
Yep, and no, honestly, like I grew up in Kitchener, and then in just after grade 6, I moved out to the country, and I finished high school in between Stratford and Waterloo, Oxford, which is like literally in the middle of the country. And
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And then like literally in the middle of a cow field. It's hilarious. But then I moved back to Kitchener, and in between moving back to Kitchener and now, like I've lived out in Vancouver, I lived in Calgary, I've traveled Canada quite a bit, and then I spent quite a while in Germany as well, and some time down in the States. And like every city has its amazing thing, but every time I come home, it's like Kitchener's home, no matter what. And for the exact reasons like you said, it's a working class city. There's a lot more like-minded people. Yeah, it's got its problems, and the problems that it has are pretty bad, but I don't know. It's home.
Definitely where home, like you said. It definitely feels more like home. Like it felt like I was just starting to belong there.
No, I know exactly what you mean. But at least you got the Harb up there, right?
Oh, brother, you don't even know. Oh my God, that bar is something else.
Yeah, it sure is. I've been there twice, and I don't think I ever want to go in there again.
You're not missing much, honestly.
Nope.
And it's not accessible too. It's all upstairs.
I was gonna say I couldn't remember because, both times I went, I was really drunk already. And then I know there's like
I mean, you're in Owen Sound, so
I was gonna say I know there's the upstairs, but
you don't go up there. If you have any self-respect, you don't go up there.
Made the mistake going up there the one night, and it was about 5 minutes long, and then we were back downstairs.
Yeah, actually, I saw a show last February there. They did a memorial show for this guy I actually went to school with. He killed himself. He did his old band. They did like a show there with like a whole bunch of other like punk bands. It was really cool. I'd never seen like a concert put on there before.
How old was the guy, if you don't mind me asking, who passed away?
His name is Matthew Taylor. He was my age, so like 20. That was last year, 26.
Okay. I know a few people up in Owen Sound, and I actually remember people posting about that.
It was the Cruel Bloom guys. That's the band.
Yep, I know those guys too.
Yeah.
I other people that I knew actually though besides those guys.
I went to high school with the Cruel Bloom guys, like Russ, him, and I've known him for a long time. That guy.
Yeah, no, I was trying to get them to come down and play a show in Kitchener, and then for whatever reason, they couldn't at the time, and then yeah, they weren't a band all of a sudden anymore.
Oh, they're a band now. They just it's just they've gone through a lot of lineup changes
Oh,
and stuff
okay.
like that, and this whole thing with Matt happened too. But yeah, it was a really good concert. They put on a really good show and all that. But I don't know what they're doing in future and all that because I know Russ has his own record store here in town.
Oh, that's who runs the record store. Okay.
Yes,
'Cause,
yes.
So Dylan from 3 Nines in Kitchener, his tapes go up there, and a couple of the tapes that I've done are up there right now.
There we go, Sour Cat Records,
Yeah,
everybody.
Sauerkraut, that's the one.
That's it.
Yeah, I gotta make a trip up there.
Yeah, I think we've got it all here, man. Unless you have anything else you want to talk about or plug anything.
Yeah, honestly, I think we basically talked about everything that I'm doing at all in any way right now.
Just Up the Punks that just came out, and By Any Means Necessary that's on Bandcamp. Is there do you guys fuck with Spotify or anything like that?
Not yet. So I have everything set up and ready to bring all of the DCHC stuff over to Spotify. I just have to do it.
Perfect.
But right now, yeah, I've kind of been just dealing with all the back end stuff to pre-orders for that album, shipping out all the Oppressed stuff, and the few backbreaker orders that I had still, and yeah, so I'm getting to it.
I know I was one of those orders.
Yeah, you were.
So just on so just Bandcamp really is where we're finding everything right now, for music wise.
Yeah.
Perfect. I love.
Yeah,
Bandcamp.
right now. Yeah, honestly, it really is great. Like right now, my wife's working on a website for DCHC, so hopefully we'll have that up and running soon and be able to start shipping stuff out of there instead of the Bandcamp store, so it's a little more
have your own store sort of
accurate. Thing. Yeah, accurate on the shipping versus.
That's awesome, man. I'll definitely promote the fuck out of it when you guys put it up. That's for sure. Yeah, Terry, everybody, appreciate you coming on and doing this, man. I really wanted to have you on here for the longest time.
All happy to be here.
All right, man.
Thank you for
taking the time to do this. I appreciate it, man.
And no, like honestly, thanks for doing it. Thanks for having me, and yeah, happy to anytime.